New details about Steve McQueen has his fans in awe. Steve McQueen dominated the big screen as Hollywood's bad boy for decades, and hits like The Cincinnati Kid and The Thomas Crown Affair made him one of the biggest box office draws. Everyone knew that a Steve McQueen flick guaranteed one thing: high-octane thrills. But behind the relaxed facade, the king of cool was hiding some serious trauma. It might have been all motorcycles and chase scenes when McQueen was on screen, but his life away from the watchful lenses of Hollywood cameras was another story entirely. His home life growing up wasn't easy, and a young McQueen eventually took to the streets to avoid his abusive stepfather. He even joined a juvenile gang before being sent to live with his grandparents. McQueen got into so much trouble as a child that his mom had to send him to California Junior Boys Republic in Chino. The school's goal was to straighten out troubled youth, and McQueen always credited it with turning his life around. All actors know the struggle of working multiple jobs to make ends meet before getting their big break, even McQueen. Before he made it big, he worked as a carnival barker, a lumberjack, and a towel boy at a brothel. McQueen once lived next door to the Who drummer Keith Moon, a notorious party animal. When Moon refused to turn off his bathroom light one night, McQueen solved the problem by blasting it with his shotgun. People know McQueen is a titan of the big screen, but his breakout role was actually on a TV show called Wanted, Dead or Alive. He starred in the show for 3 seasons and never appeared on TV again. His contract with Wanted, Dead or Alive actually prevented him from accepting a huge role in a major film, Breakfast at Tiffany's. He was eventually replaced in the now iconic role by George Peppard. McQueen spent the 1960s in a love affair with actress Mamie Van Doren, who was also seeing film mogul Howard Hughes. Hughes backed off once McQueen threatened to break his nose. McQueen's love troubles only continued into the 1970s. He started up an affair with the Getaway co-star Ali MacGraw. MacGraw ended up leaving her husband for McQueen, which was a huge problem for him the next year. His performance in Papillon received rave reviews, but he wasn't nominated at the Academy Awards. Many people speculate it's because MacGraw's ex-husband was a big-shot Hollywood producer and blackballed McQueen from winning. If you thought you spotted McQueen in Quentin Tarantino's love letter to 60s Tinseltown, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you're not mistaken. Damian Lewis shows up in a brief cameo portraying the actor back in his prime. Actors are known for having eccentric demands, but McQueen took it to a new level. On every film set, he'd request multiple pairs of jeans and razors. It was all selfless, though. He was donating them to the school he'd attended growing up. Back in the 70s, McQueen had the idea for a movie about a superstar who falls for her bodyguard. He initially envisioned the role as himself and Diana Ross, but it eventually turned into The Bodyguard, starring Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Even though McQueen was a huge box office success, he never won an Oscar, and he was only ever nominated once for his role in The Sand Pebbles. Paul Scofield won that year for his role in A Man for All Seasons. Steve isn't the only member of the McQueen family to appear on screen. His grandson, Stephen R. McQueen, is also a popular actor now, with roles in Chicago Fire and The Vampire Diaries. The Great Escape is famous for his motorcycle chases, but they weren't originally supposed to be in the movie. McQueen included them as a requirement in his contract. He just wanted to show off. In fact, McQueen loved his rides. Among his vast collection of motorcycles and cars were a 1958 Porsche 356 Speedster 1600 Super, a 1951 Chevrolet Styleline Deluxe Convertible, and a 1956 Jaguar XKSS. The Magnificent Seven was so successful that the studios made multiple sequels. McQueen was asked to reappear, but ended up deciding the script wasn't up to snuff and passed on the role. Always competitive, McQueen's co-star in The Towering Inferno was rival actor Paul Newman. Though he was originally given more lines than Newman, McQueen insisted that they have equal screen time so that he could beat Newman fair and square. During production of his final movie, The Hunter, McQueen was once found on set completely unable to catch his breath. He was tragically diagnosed with lung cancer later that year. By the next year, McQueen's condition had worsened considerably. He underwent a controversial surgery in Mexico to have a tumor removed, against advice of doctors, and ended up dying of complications at the young age of 50. Because they were constantly fighting for top billing, Steve McQueen and Paul Newman developed a rivalry. Of course, while going head-to-toe with Steve, Paul Newman was perfecting his relationship with another star. While Hollywood relationships are often short-lived, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward beat the odds with a 50-year marriage that served as a blueprint for beautiful relationships. In fact, their love story could be a Hollywood movie itself. See, in 1953, before Paul was the punky Hollywood legend that made ladies swoon, he struggled to find work. He had just 3 acting credits to his name, one of which was the ever-prestigious occasional cast member on The Aldrich Family. But soon his luck changed as the World War II veteran and Yale School of Drama student landed a role on a Broadway play called Picnic. Though he lobbied for the lead part, the director ultimately cast him as a secondary character. Unbeknownst to Paul, casting directors selected 23-year-old Joanne Woodward as an understudy for that very same play. By this point, the two had never encountered each other, but that was about to change. On a muggy Manhattan afternoon in August of 1953, Joanne was drenched in sweat while walking the streets. Hoping to beat the heat, she stepped into her manager's air-conditioned office and saw the man who'd change her life. Ever the romantic, Joanne's first thought upon seeing Paul's chiseled face and baby blue eyes was, "That's disgusting." She described him as a guy from an ice cream soda ad, fake, engineered to be perfect. On the other hand, Paul, like most men in the presence of a pretty girl, felt his heart beat just a little bit faster and heard a choir of angels sing. Compared to her, he felt dull, and after their meeting, he couldn't shake her from his mind. That was a pretty big problem, considering Paul was married to Jackie Witt, and they had, at the time, one daughter together. He remained committed to her while developing a working relationship with Joanne, his Picnic castmate. Soon, he and Joanne went their separate ways, keeping their eyes on the other as their careers grew. Both earned more roles in theater, as well as more consistent roles in television. In 1957, though, they could no longer keep their distance. It was then both were cast in Martin Ritt's The Long Hot Summer, the story of a con man charming a wealthy Mississippi family. Paul Newman earned the lead role as Ben Quick, while Joanne snagged the part of his romantic interest, Clara Varner. While their on-screen chemistry wowed audiences, their off-screen chemistry was legendary. As the two became romantically linked, it became clear they were meant to be with one another. But a problem remained. By now, Paul and Jackie Witt had 3 kids together. His connection with Joanne, however, was too strong. Taking a risk in the name of love, he asked his wife for a divorce. She granted the request. On January 28, 1958, Paul Newman and Joanna Woodward wed in a Las Vegas hotel. While incredibly happy, Paul never overcame the guilt he felt for ditching Jackie. Still, the next few years proved he made the right decision. In 1951, the now-married couple starred together in Paris Blues. In 1968, Paul directed Joanne in Rachel, Rachel, her performance in which she earned her Academy Award #2 of 4. Paul especially hit his stride. He starred in classic after classic, Cool Hand Luke in 1967, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969. And while their careers took off, behind the scenes, they worked hard to create a family. By 1965, the couple had 3 daughters of their own, giving Paul a total of 6 kids. But most impressive of all was that anyone who spotted them together in public saw 2 people who genuinely loved each other. At a wedding, for instance, one attendee recalled seeing Joanne sitting against a tree trunk with Paul's head resting in her lap. Occasionally, Paul reached up and touched her face as he savored the music. Romantic moments like this had a profound effect. Their marriage lasted 50 years, an incredible feat for anyone, let alone those in the Hollywood spotlight. How'd they made it happen? Well, the two answered with different but equally poignant answers. When asked why he stuck by Joanne's side for so long when they could have easily had any woman, Paul, in classic Paul Newman fashion, said, "I have steak at home. Why should I go out for a hamburger?" Joanne was a bit more eloquent. "Sexiness wears thin after a while and beauty fades," she said. "But to be married to a man who makes you laugh every day, that's a real treat." Each appreciative of the other, they nurtured their affection in youthful ways. When they craved alone time, for instance, the couple retreated to their home in Connecticut, often visiting a treehouse they'd built together. Their love could withstand anything. Well, almost anything. On September 28, 2009, Paul Newman passed away in the bed he'd shared for so long with Joanne. With his wife at his side, moments before his final breath, he said his final words, "It's been a privilege to be here." Joanne was devastated, and so were all Paul's fans and close friends. After his death, his co-star in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford, said, "I've lost a real friend." He knew he owed his career to Paul. See, though he comes across as the quintessential movie star, Robert Redford's life has been anything but a leisurely stroll down the red carpet. And it wouldn't have been the same without Paul Newman.